Welcome to Snakes and Otters, a pointless discussion of eternal questions. Get ready. We're about to live in your head rent-free. Hello, Otterites. This is episode 183.
I am Martin.
And I'm Robert.
And I'm Francis.
All right, gentlemen. It is the second episode of the month. Not the second week, but the second episode, because we are now doing twice a month. And it is Code of Honor.
Yay!
Code of Honor.
Our favorite?
Our favorite, yes. And once again, we are sitting here in Studio M. And we have with us our very special guest today, Marcus Aurelius. He has joined us.
We are no longer three today, but now four.
We are four. 5 is right out.
That's right. Very good.
And so...
I don't know. Monty Python did not make an appearance last episode, so it's awesome that within the first 3 minutes you got... or within actually the first minute,
yes,
you've got a Monty Python in. Well done, Robert. Well
I
done.
I try.
5 is right out.
So, Code of Honor, for new listeners, and for a reminder from Marcus here, it's where we talk about the quotes that we find that have meaning.
Right.
And often we'll just do these on anything.
Right.
But for the last several months, we have been doing shows on philosophers.
Right.
And we've been doing quotes from these philosophers.
Right.
So a couple of weeks ago, you heard our John Dewey episode on philosophers. He's our most modern philosopher. He died in the middle of the 20th century. That's about as modern as we've gotten so far.
Yeah.
And we're going to do quotes from him. One of the boys will go first, and first and second, and
third.
Marcus, if he wants to join in,
he's
got a
He's
quote.
got
All right,
one.
so
Okay,
we'll have 4 quotes
You
today.
have to manage to meld together 3, not 2. 5,
Yes.
of course,
You got
is still
quite
right
the
out.
challenge today,
Yes.
Robert.
Thou shalt not stop at 2.
That's right.
Thou shalt, nor shall thou go on to 4. Well, I guess we'll go to 4 this time.
No. No.
Yes, I have to meld 3. Yes, I don't. Yes,
Well, that's
my
exactly
opinion.
right.
Anyways.
4 shalt thou not count. Neither shalt thou count 2, excepting to proceed on
to 3. Yes.
Okay, took me a second to get it out, but there we are.
Again,
5 is right
out.
out. That's right.
And you're on cleanup.
Pardon? Yes, I am on
Yes,
I bet
yes,
cleanup
he's
on
betting
this.
cleanup.
I'm
Yes,
betting
He
cleanup,
always
yes.
bets cleanup. That's right. The hammer. Just
Cecil
meld it all
Fielder.
together.
That's right, Cecil Fielder. Yes. So I have got that. John
I got that
Fielder
right.
card.
He was a Tiger.
Yes, he
correct?
was a Tiger.
Okay,
for-
good.
Yes, yes, very good. Yes,
That's a sports ball reference.
Yeah.
yes,
Francis.
yes. The small round kind.
And,
Not-
and most people don't want to even claim to be Tiger fans.
not only do I claim to be
It's like Dallas Cowboys fans.
it's not only do I claim to be a Tigers fan, I claim to be a Lions fan.
I was going to say, Thanksgiving is nothing without getting together and watching the Lions get the snot beat out of them.
They did not get the snot
They-
beat out
they-
of
I
them.
tell you what,
Yeah,
they went
it was a
toe to
good
toe
game.
with a really
I tell you
good
what,
team.
game.
some better clock management. They had that game won.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
you can
I saw a
tell
portion. It was actually pretty
where
good.
where they are. They're in a good spot, but they're a young team that's still learning
Yep.
to do those things. They need more depth on defense.
Oh my gosh, they need more
They were
depth.
missing their top corner.
Missing their top corner. They're missing both guards. So, the rushing game, which has been very good, was a little lackluster. But even so,
They still did. I mean, they mixed it up really nice with
Yes.
Swift and Jamal Williams. But really, the back end, trying to cover Diggs in the second half.
that was rough.
That's where the lack of depth really shows.
Yeah. Well, Okuda was out, and then Acquire gets hurt.
Yeah.
And we've got other injuries
Okay.
dealing with. Oh my gosh. We could
Sorry,
spend
but
all
you-
episode
sorry,
Well,
talking about
it's
that.
just like Dewey. They need to go for lifelong education.
That's true. That is
Right,
very true.
exactly. Very good. That's right. All right.
So
That was very in-depth sports ball analysis.
It was.
yes,
It
in
was.
about 60
and
seconds.
the fact that we can sit here and talk positively about the Detroit Lions is worth spending a couple of minutes on.
Is it though?
So
I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the Lions.
Yeah,
They're getting there.
They are.
You've only waited, 56, 57 years to get to that?
it was 57 when they had their last championship.
Oh, okay.
But they've been in the playoffs since then.
Yes, they have. They've only won one game since then in the playoffs, but
Wayne Fonts and the 90s.
it's how bad is your franchise? It's so bad when you can say that Wayne Fonts is your winningest coach.
Wow. So, in other words, Bruce Springsteen can't even sing glory days about this franchise.
No, you can, but you just got to talk about the 30s,
You gotta
40s,
talk
and
about
50s.
30s.
Way
Yes.
back there. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like being a Cubs fan.
Except the Cubs won the World
Well,
Series.
they
Except
did.
the Cubs finally won.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
they did, and it was really.
I think
I just hope we don't have to wait 116 years.
If I
for us.
remember
Yeah.
correctly, I
109.
believe somebody brought the goat back into the stadium.
Yeah, I don't
'Cause
remember
it
exactly.
was-
Yeah,
Because the whole thing was based off of they kicked a goat out of the stadium, so some gypsy or something cursed them.
Yep.
And I believe what they finally did was brought the goat back into the stadium.
Well, it's interesting. Who was it? Who were the two guys that tried to exorcise the curse of Bobby Lane? They
You're deep into the Lion stuff that I don't.
Well, no,
recall.
this was just two nationally known guys on one of the
Tried to lift a curse.
Yeah, one of the football shows. I'd have to go look it up. I can't remember who they are now because I didn't see it. I just saw the story about it.
Yeah.
Right after that is when they started the 3-game winning streak.
There you go.
So
There you go.
I would say it was Peyton Manning and somebody else. Might have been another quarterback.
Bradshaw or something.
Peyton and Eli have their show on Monday night.
I don't think it was Peyton and Eli though. It might have been, but I don't think it was both of them. But anyways,
Yes.
we digress
Yes,
mightily.
back
I mean, that's the first time we ever used the Detroit Lions as a rabbit hole. But please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, everything can happen. Anything and everything can happen on Snakes and Otters. So again, you guys are gonna come up with a quote. You guys all have your quotes.
I'm
I
ready.
do.
All right,
Absolutely.
So any particular order we want to go in?
I'm
do you
willing
want
to
to go
go
first?
first.
Do you want?
Whatever's good with the guys, but I'll hit it first.
Let's let Marcus.
No,
go
no,
first.
hold on. Let
I'm gonna
him
put you on
go.
the spot.
Let him go first so I can get an idea of this
Of how this
format.
works.
Yeah,
That's fair.
it is his
That's
first
fair.
time.
That's fair.
It's his first time.
I'm a
Let's be
virgin.
gentle.
I'm a virgin at this. So.
At this.
There we go.
At this. Be gentle, Robert.
That's right.
Some lube, please.
Yeah. I'll let you get your feet set.
I knew we were going to go there. It was just a matter of time.
Because that's more important than the lube sometimes.
Yes, well, he's going to start with just the tip.
Great.
Just
Yeah, just the tip.
You're killing me, boys. You're killing
Oh,
me.
this is already more fun than ever. This
All right,
is,
well,
it's
Martin, are
nice.
you going to go first? Or
Yes.
Go, Martin.
I'm going.
All right.
All right. Again, all John Dewey stuff.
Right.
The self is not something ready-made, but something in continuous formation through choice of action. So there's a lot there
It is.
that
That's-
really plugs into everything that we're doing.
Yeah, that's pragmatism on pure right there. It's all about what you're doing.
Right.
Your experience and your thoughts and your intentions create the future.
And continuous creation.
Continuous creation.
Continuous
Right.
creation. The part that really grabbed me, though, was that choice of action. We've talked a lot in the past about that dichotomy of thinking and action.
Yes.
How thinking without action is just impotence, but action without thinking is savagery.
Yep.
Right.
And I really liked this notion of your choice of action and making a decision, choosing to move forward with whatever that action is.
Right.
And again, listeners, you might be surprised about this, but there's a fair bit of introvert energy going on here with
really?
Snakes and Otters.
Yeah.
And choosing to put ourselves out there, to act, to make this a reality. And again, just to enjoy it and not worry about, okay, well, we have 100,000 listeners and OnlyFans has been mentioned already. Yeah, all of those things don't matter.
Right.
It's the action of putting ourselves out there, enjoying this time together. And it's that continuous formation of who we are through this action of writing or blogging or podcasting. And I thought that quote just jumped out at me when I started my research on Dewey.
Yeah, the choosing to act, that is, I think, at the core of a lot of the stuff that we talk about on Code of Honor especially, but throughout a lot of what we have dealt with, because we are very much about deliberate, thoughtful doing.
Yes.
Right.
Because, as you said so well, thinking without acting is impotence, and acting without thinking is savagery. Is so true. you cannot be, as we like we have also said, fully human without both.
Yes.
You know, I've talked several times about the whole be-do-have relationship.
Right.
About you have to be something where depending on how you look at it. Some people say you have to be something before you can do something before you can have something. Some say, well, no, you have to do it before you can become it, and so forth. It's a circle, you know, and not a circle jerk, just a circle.
Just a circle.
Just a circle. And it's a circle in that one leads to the next, and back around again. And it's a constant. You can say it's a spiral. A spiral up, hopefully.
Okay.
It could be a spiral down if you're making the wrong decisions. You still make informed decisions that are wrong. But that thoughtful, deliberate choice. And what I love about that is that it's so important yet so lacking in so much of what goes on around us.
There's so much action without thought.
Yes. Knee-jerk reactions.
Yes.
But those knee-jerk reactions in today's society can come even against thought without action. I mean,
you know, like a knee-jerk to a knee-jerk?
Well, yeah.
Or a knee-jerk to an impotent.
But in today's society, it's you know, even at the criminal level, it's thought that impotent thought is still criminally, just, and it goes towards thoughts, okay, of individuals that we consider to be pariahs. Okay, a perfect example is in Washington State. They have an island there called McNeil Island.
Yes,
which is an involuntary commitment facility. It is for individuals deemed to be potentially, they've already been proven to be predators of one type or another,
okay,
but that they can potentially do this again. Period. Poof, done. Judge puts you away forever. No trial, no nothing. They just commit you. Involuntary commitment facility. And the whole basis behind that is not only what they could potentially do, but their inherent thoughts and what have you that's going on in their head. Or, another thing that I've found interesting, and people have I've talked to people about this before, is the difference between the way Canada sees things and the way we see things.
Yeah.
Here we have freedom of speech, freedom of the press. For the most part. You can write stuff, you still may have consequences coming with those from society as a whole. But in Canada, let's say in a kind of adult film thing.
Okay, kind of adult film.
If someone over the age of 18 is portraying somebody that could be interpreted as younger than 18.
Interpreted as. Not
Interpreted as.
Explicitly
No,
stated.
no, not stated. No, nothing.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, just interpreted.
You are looking at child pornography charges.
Oh. Well, which is an enormous, because if you get hit with that here, that is not only a career destroyer, a life
Exactly.
destroyer.
Same thing happens in Canada.
It's the ultimate.
In Canada,
But here, generally, though, you're not going to be hit with that standard.
No,
Right.
Right.
There's
Because it's
more
perception, not fact.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, how many? But this is to the level of what we would consider an R-rated film, with somebody who's older portraying a teenager.
What
Great example.
So it's
Riverdale.
Exactly.
I mean, you beat me to it.
Exactly.
The entire thing, they're all supposed to be underage.
Exactly. But
Yet they're having sex
but
all
the
over
other,
the place.
The other
Even
thing,
though all the actors are
exactly,
all well over 18.
So it's thought, interpretation.
It's a thought crime.
But you see, we have that here in the U.S. too, with hate crimes. We're prosecuting someone additionally for what they may, because you can't ever figure out exactly what somebody's thinking.
Right, at the moment of action, you can't prove that.
That's right.
Leading up to it through writings and
Exactly.
things, yes.
Yeah. I mean, they're
supposed to be, you have to commit the crime before.
Exactly.
Well, what was it Steve Rogers says? I thought that punishment came after the crime, not before it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, on that's a sticky situation. It's a very fine line to walk because we do punish people
all the time,
greater, and prior to the whole idea of a hate crime being codified, based on what they were thinking at the time of the act. So if I murder somebody,
that's right.
And I do it because I'm jealous,
a
crime
of passion.
A crime of passion. That can have a different sentence based on whether or not it was a casual drive-by kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Well,
it wouldn't be premeditated, unlike the drive-by.
Well, no, drive-by doesn't have to be premeditated.
It can be.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah,
but yes, you're right. You're right.
Well, even a crime of passion can be premeditated.
Yeah.
The passion could just be that it's driven by passion.
Yes.
So Dan Sickles was the ultimate,
exactly
the beginning of all that.
Definition here,
exactly. Definition by insanity.
Yeah. So that's a fine line. But you're right, though. We now words are equated with violence.
Yes.
Yes.
And those words are reacted to with violence, physical violence.
Yes.
It's funny that the old children's rhyme of, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say. That's not good enough anymore.
No.
We used to just brush words off, and then, like you say, words are considered violent,
and now you've got people, and a number of friends of mine. One of their big things was the idea of punch a Nazi.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with what that Nazi's doing or that individual that portrays himself in that manner.
Yes, their definition of Nazi is very loose.
Yeah, exactly. It could be somebody just whatever and uneducated that all of a sudden they're considered someone who is
just to the right of Stalin as a Nazi.
Yeah, exactly. He is a definite threat to me just because of the way that they portray themselves.
That's right. His attitude,
his clothing, whatever that justifies assaulting them.
Right. In many ways, that is the nullification of that deliberate action because it is the knee jerk.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is very much where we are. We've talked. I hate to sound like beating the same drum over and over and over, but honestly, I struggle sometimes to find the good and the positive in what is going on around us. The great friend we talked about in the last episode in the Northern Climes, we were on the phone the other day, and normally I'm a very positive person.
You spoke to someone over the phone?
I did.
I speak to you over the phone.
How 1980s of you?
I know. Well, I'm old.
I was going to say 1996, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's all right.
So, he's older than all of us, so his memory's not as good. So
that's right. That's what they keep.
Yeah, that's probably how 1990s of you.
Yeah. So, we were talking about the direction things are going in, and I was positing that that we have gone beyond the point of no return in certain things. That we will have to let certain things run its course. The what used to be called political correctness. Actually, I long for the days of just simple political correctness.
Yeah.
But we will have to let the
lay awake at night dreaming
being politically corrected.
That's
yes.
Right.
Yes. It went from correction to what is the term now? Hate speech.
Well, yeah. Well, not just that, but it was just the whole movement to punish and not just punish, but destroy.
Yeah, there's
as we so often talked about.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, this is true.
To silence in every possible way, not just the voice, but even the ability to make money,
families, homes, everything.
That whether you want to call it wokeness or
canceling,
whatever,
that's part of it. But
canceling, yes,
but it's more insidious and violent than canceling.
Yes,
pure canceling.
All of that is again the lack of a deliberate action other than revenge, because it's a reaction. It is not a response.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and it doesn't contribute to an individual's growth either.
And it doesn't.
No.
Its whole point is to stymie that other person's growth.
But the person committing it as well, it stymies their growth. It doesn't
help them
because there's no reflection about.
It's exactly like the idea of you get these individuals who come out into the public eye and what have you, and maybe they posted something. They're younger than us. Maybe they posted something to the internet in their teens that was offensive, that now
That may or may not have been offensive then.
Exactly. What probably wasn't offensive then, but what ends up happening is they need to be punished for that now. They need to lose their job now.
Yeah.
There is no room for growth and lifelong learning.
Much less
and forgiveness.
To do it, and forgiveness.
Yep.
None of that is allowed.
That's a very, very good point.
Yes.
In today's society.
Right.
Yeah.
Destroying something for what you said. Destroying someone for what that person said when they were 14.
Exactly.
Or 15.
Yes.
Yeah, that girl who lost her scholarship is a great example of that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She got her learner's permit. I don't even think it was her license. So she's 15 or 16.
Yeah.
And she used a variation on the N-word
Yes.
in a social posting. And that came up because not that somebody remembered it, but that somebody who didn't like her sought out something he could use against her.
Yeah.
To destroy
and dug it up. And so nobody was having any issues with it. It was in the past till this guy made a big deal out of it. So
it goes
she
viral.
lost everything.
It goes viral, and the world turns against her.
Yes.
And we see it happening again and again and again.
Yes.
And
that's one of the reasons why we do this show, is that we are, we do it because it's fun. We've always sat around and talked about stuff like this, but it's to try and put out there not just an example of that thinking before acting, and just thinking about things in general to improve oneself, to become more fully human. But it's to put something out there that maybe somebody will see and hear and will choose a better way. To me, that's part of it.
There's a lot to be said for forgiveness.
Absolutely.
Life without it would be hell.
Yeah.
Or utter hell, as we're describing. Because much of what you're describing could be described as hell. The absolute inability, because hell is eternal damnation. It is eternal suffering. It's things that there is no hope, there is no end. Whereas in what you're talking about here, if your reputation is destroyed forever,
right? Yes. And hell is once you are there, you are beyond redemption.
That's right.
I used in a homily recently, talking about what is heaven like, because at the end of time, because what does that mean? Is there even prayer in the sense that we think of it now? Because if at that point you're everybody's going to be where they're going to be. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody who's
your
going to be in heaven
destination is decided,
and everybody's there. Everybody in heaven doesn't need prayer anymore, right? And there's nobody theoretically to pray for, because it's all done, unless you can pray retroactively. So we'll have to, who knows? But essentially, if you're there, you don't need it. And if you're in hell, you can't use it anyway. So yeah, it is no forgiveness and no possibility of forgiveness.
No. There, in today's climate, that's exactly right. There is no room, apparently, for forgiveness in society's eyes.
That's right. Well, therefore, it is an inhumane level of existence at the moment.
There is a potential for forgiveness, and that is the unadulterated, pure groveling.
Oh yes. This is true.
And even then, it's going to depend upon who you are. The more public a figure you are, the less likely you are to be given that forgiveness.
Well, let's rephrase it. The more popular a figure you are,
I think
with the popularity of it.
I think there's some truth about that.
A perfect example, Michael Vick.
Yeah, okay.
Detestable human being with the dog fighting and what have you.
Right, yeah.
But since he can win games, everybody's okay with it.
Well, it happened that
the question is, did he truly repent?
He paid his price.
But that price was finite.
Yes.
Yeah, finite.
And was it intended to be finite? Because in the court of public opinion, there is no such thing, generally speaking.
Well,
but somehow he managed to make it so.
He did manage to make it.
It's a good example.
But you know what? There's a couple of different things going on there. There's the racial aspect. There's the public figure aspect.
Yeah.
The sports figure.
Figure aspect.
As a quarterback who can win.
You can't underestimate that. That's part of it.
And then there's also, it's It's not pre-social media,
No,
but it's
it is a little bit before.
Dominance of social media.
Kind of social media
It's pre-cancel culture.
Oh yeah, it's definitely
degree.
pre-cancel culture.
He slid it in right before
by
that.
a luck of time that he did it when he did it.
Yes.
He was able to get away with it eventually.
Yes.
Well, and it did not, as horrendous as what he did was.
Right? Yeah.
For the most part, let's face it, nobody gives two shits about it.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
it's the kind of thing where you can look at it and say, "Yeah, I hate that," but
Let's
it's
move
not
on.
something that either
Yeah.
most people are even going to think about. Because how many people have ever been to a dogfight?
Well, because it's not, and I think this might be an aspect of it. It's not political.
Yeah.
And that's where I was going.
think
It's not
it's political.
something that touches the everyday life like politics.
That's
does.
right. It is not integrated in politics because
Yeah.
politics
Yeah.
is the ultimate false god.
Yeah.
Ultimate false god.
Well, sex maybe.
No, politics is ultimately
Politics.
false.
Yeah, because politics is a path to sex.
Right.
Kennedys
Let's,
can tell you that.
Yes, they can.
Yes, let's let
Francis go.
Let's let
Oh,
Francis go.
Yes.
my turn here. Give me just a brief moment here.
Yeah, we worked mine over pretty good. That was good
we
discussion.
pummeled that very, very well.
Good discussion.
This one, the one, and I had said, my God, Dewey is so prolific and he wrote so
Yes.
much. He had so many great quotes to go to. But the one that I have to land on here is very much part and parcel to my personal philosophy about life. And his quotation is, "If we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow." Which I think is a brilliant quotation in and of itself. But my take on that is, the one thing that you absolutely must never ever say to me is, "But we've always done it this way." That infuriates me, because that is an abrogation of the free will that we were given to try and always be better. There's always something that can be better about that. Even if it's only just 2-point correction, there's something that can be made better. And that goes, and it's very Dewey, actually. It goes back to the fact that we can think our way to a better process. That's my contribution to Dewey, I suppose. Because, I believe that part very well. We've got the ability. We have the technology. We can rebuild him.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly the methodologies in education that he once thrown over, cast away, and replaced. That rote and all that. But still, people broke out of that.
Sure.
Certainly the world did not start having intelligent people after the educational paradigm was changed. So there certainly, I think you could say, growth, technological growth, the growth of outside ideas accelerated once the educational paradigm changed, but they weren't unknown.
Right. Because you can certainly see that incredibly intelligent men and women existed,
Like yourselves.
in the I mean, prior to the
Prior to change.
we're not quite that old.
Yeah, okay.
Very intelligent people. I mean, you look at the framers of the Constitution, the founding fathers.
Yes.
Those men were giants that there are no equal today. There's no one in political thought today, whether they're in office or not, that I would trust to write a constitution that comes anywhere near.
Well, Lincoln
what the
is an
founding
excellent
fathers did.
example, maybe even more than one more that proves the point, because his formal education was negligible.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
he was
And
a
he's
lawyer,
somebody who-
But he was a lawyer.
Absolutely,
self-taught.
Self-taught, absolutely,
Yeah.
all this stuff, and which goes back to the potentially ugly premise at the root of this is, it ain't nurture, folks, it's nature.
But Lincoln was nurtured to seek out
Yeah.
learning.
Yes.
But read
His mother.
That's
did.
right.
Now,
His mother
father
had
did
influence.
not.
His father was the laziest man in LaRue County. It was not a log cabin he lived in. It was a limb cabin, as per Tim Wilson would say.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, his father was like, "If you know how to plow, that's all you need to know, little man."
That's right.
And
Go split them rails and shut up.
Yeah.
And give me your money
But
until you're
one
21.
one of the things with Lincoln is he was a submissive man. He was beaten to that submissiveness by his wife over the course of years.
There's
maybe
truth
domestically,
to that,
but
and his father was that way too.
His father was that way too.
But when it came to the political arena,
I wouldn't call him
he
submissive
rose to the occasion.
absolutely, because the 13th Amendment is a great example of screw this. We're not waiting. We need to do this now, and I'm the only one that seems to be able to see this.
Yes.
So, but of course, that's the end of his life.
Yes.
Where he's in earlier times, it was very much different. But he was a constant thinker.
Yeah.
And I mean, the writings about him and by him very much clearly put this forward, which goes back to the premise of, folks, it may just be nature.
Possibly. It's not either or. It's
nurture.
remember,
Nurture has an effect, no question.
But that's the whole basis of education is nurture.
That is correct. It's all it is.
Nature can be suppressed.
Yes.
And no amount of nurturing can
create what's
induce
not there.
what's there, what's not there.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a little bit of both. I mean, as Catholics, we know this. It's both and. It's not either.
Oh,
or.
sure. Yeah, I'm not just saying nurture has no value and has no purpose.
But I don't think it's primarily nature.
Well, that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out here is to throw out the question.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll go back to my favorite thing: the inherent dignity of the human person.
Right. Yeah.
All of us have a certain equality in certain things.
Dignity and sanctity. By the nature of being human.
And in a theoretical potential.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
We have that same
you want to
equality.
describe that.
Yes. Now, where nature and nurture come into play are things like, did your mama smoke 12 packs a day while she was carrying you? Mm-hmm. Did she drink like a horse? Mm-hmm. All right, that's going to change the limits of your nature when you were born.
Yes, that it would. That's correct. That's
right.
A developmental
circumstance. How well were you fed as a child in the first 2 years?
Can determine a lot.
That has a phenomenal effect
on
the limits of your nature.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Whether you
you might call that nurture.
I was going to say, but that would be nurture.
Yeah, you might call that nurture, but I don't, because when I think of nature versus nurture, I'm thinking of ability versus not experience, motivation, external motivation.
Okay.
When I think of nurturing, I think of somebody is encouraging you to do something.
So nature,
not just providing an environment.
Nature is not exclusively a priori.
Correct.
Nurture
to a degree,
up to a certain point, and for lack of a better term, we'll say the first 3 years of life. Mm-hmm. Nurture has an absolute effect upon nature.
Yes.
Nature is not fully formed until 3, but once you reach that point where the concrete is set, for lack
I don't
of
think the concrete's set until your brain is fully developed. That's
age
age 25.
That's correct, but the level of hardness, to use the image,
is
far less permeable and malleable.
Yes, once you hit 3 to 5, you can
so
walk on that.
Much
it's going to be a little boggy, a lot muddy.
That's the image here.
But once you, and by the time you get later, you're not going to leave much of a mark.
But to go back to the original question, when it comes to nature versus nurture, nature will determine your ability to, God save me for using the term, produce to a far greater degree than your nurture will.
Well,
that of course is a dehumanizing aspect.
I don't necessarily agree, because
that's why I'm trying to tease this out, see where we are.
Okay.
So I have artistic nature, both visually as well as with the word.
Okay.
And I know what my skill level is.
Yeah.
But I know my skill level could be 1,000,000 times better.
Yeah.
If I applied myself.
Yes.
That's the nurture side of it.
Right.
I nurture my own skills.
So you've been given the raw gifts.
Yes. Well, I have the raw gifts. Let's say.
But that's
either now whether or not that was a nurtured.
Yeah,
because that was where I wanted to go. I don't know, but again,
so in other words, the concept of raw talent is hard to quantify.
It is.
Well, I mean,
because some of it how much of that were you born with? How much of that was developed?
Right.
Especially in your early ages.
I don't think you can tell.
Well, and therein lies, of course, the greatness of this conversation.
Well, now, hold it. I'm going to let Marcus go. I got something. I want to go through.
A perfect way to evaluate this is in the idea of if you have an alcoholic, drug addict, whatever, abuser, what have you, that kind of development. Right. That's your family.
They have
the idea of that in the next generation is more likely than not. If
that is correct.
Parents were alcoholics,
statistically speaking.
Statistically. Same with addicts, same with abusers, all of that. But take, for example, the idea of myself and my wife.
Okay.
Both of us grew up without fathers.
Right.
Completely. Mine was gone. My mother and dad were divorced when I was age 3. I never spoke to the man ever until, quite recently.
Right.
The first words I spoke to him were on the phone, and that was when I was 40. And that was just to get something done. And my wife's family, addiction, alcoholism, abuse, the whole 9 yards, and no father.
Right.
Or serial fathers.
Well, no, there weren't even serial fathers.
Oh, none of them stuck around?
No, not really.
Well, I've met your mother-in-law. I can understand that.
Yeah. You're talking about a woman that's so angry and so damaged. I mean, hell, she shot at me on 2 different occasions.
Oh.
Well, where does the anger and damage come into that?
Yeah, I know.
And she missed, too.
And she missed.
Yeah.
It's a horrible shot. Yeah. But...
That can be corrected. I'm willing to work with her.
Very good. Daggone, you don't get any better than this.
That was good.
That's right.
You get bonus points for that.
We couldn't have scripted that one if we tried. That's right.
But when we found out that we were having a child,
yeah, sure,
we made a pact to each other that our lives would be dedicated to ending that cycle.
Yeah, that's the key.
And dedicated to our children and their development.
Yeah,
that's right.
You have to break the.
You have to break the cycle.
Free will is capable of that.
Exactly, and
capable.
And we fought through that.
Right. Because it was not natural.
No.
Yeah, you had to deliberately
we had to deliberately say we were going to change.
Because there was a gravitational pull towards the opposite.
So what ends up
that's
is
the nature.
You've got, in the case of my wife, you've got 3 sisters.
Yeah.
We have 2 sons, very successful.
Yeah, that's right.
Good, moral, their way of thinking.
Decent young men, yes.
Decent. Okay? Now, you ended up, in her case, you had 2 sisters, ended up repeating that cycle of abuse, drug addiction, jail time, what have you. Then you've got their kids, okay, which have gone through a lot. I mean, one of them, at the age of 15, was murdered, executed in the hallway of his own house. He was shot in the front yard, made it in the front door, executed in the foyer.
Okay.
At 15.
Right.
Yes.
Murderers never found. So the difference in choices at those times.
Deliberate choices.
Deliberate choices.
Again. That's right.
Deliberate choices and actions based off of those deliberate choices.
Well, applied with reason.
Yes.
Reason applied to the choices.
To end the cycle.
Right.
So
and successfully so.
Yes.
Yes. Now,
but is there still not an underlying tendency that must continually be fought?
Yeah, we're both extremely damaged people.
Right, exactly.
Because of our upbringing.
Right. Which is, that much is set in concrete.
Yes.
You have to continually be vigilant.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not only vigilance. We have to continually grow to find out where those underlying things, that underlying damage is.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
To try and fix it.
Because I don't want to say it's infinite, but it's infinitely complex.
Yes.
So, of the 4 of us sitting here, 3 of us have had those kinds of issues.
Absolutely. Children of alcoholics.
Children of alcoholics,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
And oddly enough, it's all the Catholics.
Yes.
That's right.
Although I'm a convert, so it's a half and half here.
Yeah.
I say that with your bourbon almost in hand.
Yes. Well, I come from, even though they come from Baptist roots, they were drinkers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both mom and dad.
And instead of dancing, they just went to the sex.
Exactly. Well, you know why Baptists don't have sex standing up, don't you?
No,
I'm afraid it might lead to dancing.
It's too much like dancing.
Too much like dancing, yeah. And of course, I've talked about how my dad was an abuser.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he laid hands on my mother. I remember that.
Yeah.
And that I never had that temptation. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I never had that Sam Kinison moment where I said, I may not believe in beating wives, but I know it turns Mr. Hand into Mr. Fist.
Yeah.
Never had that moment.
Yeah, I don't condone it, but I understand
But I
it.
don't condone it, but I understand. Yeah. Never had that. I was talking with my sister on the phone a long time ago, and she marveled at my parenting with my wife.
Yeah.
Because I think I was talking about how I had to go read to the put the kids to bed
Yeah.
and read.
Right. Yeah. Which that's a long
we
time
did
ago.
that.
Yeah.
And 'cause my parents never did that.
Yeah, mine did.
Never.
And we did it with both of our sons.
And
Okay.
you know, I can't. She says, "Where did you learn to do that?"
Interesting you say that. And how much of that was your choice? How much of that was your wife's?
I don't remember. Probably it was more my wife's because I didn't have the experience of
Yeah,
it. But
possibly.
But you embraced it.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it may have been. We did. Honestly, I don't remember.
Right. Yeah.
But
That's the joy of marriage and the beauty of marriage.
Yes,
Is where I'm kind of.
But there was
teasing
never
you.
any resistance to that.
No. Because you
And-
trusted her.
Well, no. I mean,
Even though it was
the
outside
concept,
your
whether it was my
experience.
concept or hers, doesn't
But
matter.
you viewed each other as teammates,
Yes.
as equals.
Yes.
That's
So-
right.
To then say, well, we have this job ahead of us. Let's
Yeah.
do it the best we can.
Yeah,
Right.
Somewhat of it was goal-oriented,
you
right.
adapted to the situation.
Yes.
And the other thing is, and this is something that goes through the four of us, is we consider ourselves, even if we don't think about it, we're lifelong learners.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. You nailed it.
We're
That's exactly
constant,
right.
We're constantly growing. And because of that, we're able to end things that we saw as hurtful
Yes.
or painful
Right.
or whatever, and not pass that on to our children as best as
Some of
possible.
that is because we experienced it,
Yes.
but otherwise it's because we recognized the wrong in it.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
I guess you
So
gotta go
I've
out.
never had any inclination to drink like my parents.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
I drink bourbon,
Sure.
and I will drink beer. I'll have an occasional beer during the during the month, but almost probably 90% of my drinking is done in the context of snakes and otters.
That's right. That's
I
better.
don't
Yeah.
know.
Same here.
Or
Probably
used to be when under my former pastor, whenever we had deacon night, I would have my bourbon there, but that's still once a month.
Well, but I think you've probably drank more communion wine than bourbon.
Well, probably.
Well, there was a time. That's right.
That's a deep.
Let me just do one quick thing, and then
I
I want to move on to let Marcus do his quote. But I just finished G.J. Meyer.
Right. That's
Okay.
our great G.J. Meyer, who wrote the World Undone and the World Remade, the World War I books that
Yes.
we love so much. Yes.
Well, you need to pick up his book on the Tudor dynasty.
Yes, you've talked about it to me. Yes, that's right.
I just finished it like yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. It's a complete gear shift away from World War One.
Yeah, so it's awesome. And it, of all things, it plays into this nature versus nurture because he's talking about the nature of the Tudors.
Right.
They were intelligent people.
Very much so. Yes.
Super sharp, but especially Mary and Elizabeth, and even Edward, they were products of being the children of Henry VIII.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And what he
Definitely.
became,
Yeah,
the
the
monster
monster
that he became.
Eternally affected them.
Yeah, it really, they wanted to live up to his glory in their minds.
Right.
Especially Edward.
Even though he had a short window to
A
do
short,
so. Yeah.
a short life. And they did not pull back from this idea of whatever enhances my survival, we need to do. Whether that's burn the heretics
Yeah.
or hang the traitors.
Right.
Which, that especially when
They
it comes
all
to
did it.
Elizabeth. When it comes to Elizabeth, her primary concern was survival,
Yeah.
basically, as monarch.
Right.
both domestically and internationally.
Yes,
That's right.
So that Mary burned the heretics.
Right.
Elizabeth hung the traitors.
Right.
But it was the same essential crime.
That's right.
Yeah,
in fact, Elizabeth, but her numbers were much higher. Of course, she reigned so much longer.
Well,
too.
yeah, 40 years. Or
Absolutely.
Something like
So
that.
Yes, Elizabeth's reign. Female monarchs in England, they reign a long time.
Very much so. Well, because Mary was called, and this is just propaganda after the fact. She was Bloody Mary.
She was Bloody Mary.
It was Good Queen Bess, even though Elizabeth's numbers were far greater. Was Protestant. That's right.
Well, more importantly,
she survived.
Good Queen Bess won. Mary did not.
Mm-hmm. Mary reigned until her death.
Yeah. I mean, she
was not deposed.
Well, she was firmly on the throne for the 5 years that she reigned.
Yes, but 5 years versus 40.
And that's right. And
dynastically, she lost.
Oh, absolutely. Ironically,
until a little bit later,
they both did because ironically, you have to go back. The Stuarts take over after that. The Tudor dynasty essentially dies out.
Well, it essentially a conscious decision by Elizabeth that her survival on the throne is enhanced by not entering into marrying and not having an heir.
Because sooner or later, because she recognized at that time she would have to share power to the point where she would lose power by the share. That was inevitable.
Yeah. That people would view, if she took on someone that the people appreciated as king, opposite what Mary did.
Which was Philip. Yeah, they hated him.
Yeah, they hated him.
Well, and I don't want to let the episode get too far afield because we've certainly done that already. But your point though about the nature versus nurture. That's to me that's a great example of it being both because you do have incredibly intelligent, savvy people,
right?
But part of that is a little bit of nurture, especially the savviness and the desires that they have. But the nature thing. One of the reasons that you could say that nature, I guess you can make the argument both ways with this. Smart people can produce total idiots.
Oh yes,
as progeny.
Well, and you should don't lose sight.
And total idiots can produce an Einstein. I'm not saying Einstein's parents were idiots,
right? Yeah.
And Einstein,
yeah. Right. I mean, interesting you say that because remember, all three of Henry's children had different mothers.
Right.
So you've got that use that.
So that is it all the male seed then that determines everything?
Well, I mean, monstrosity.
No,
not at all.
But DNA plays a role.
It does.
It does.
Nature plays a role.
None of their mothers ever raised any of those children.
Right.
So, that's right. Yes, the mothers were essentially absent.
In all cases,
because Mary would be about the only one.
Yeah, and
she had a relationship with her mother.
She did, and she lived into her 20s. But Anne Boleyn is executed while Elizabeth is a teeny weeny, and Jane Seymour dies at birth. For gosh sakes, giving birth to Edward. So they have absent mothers, with the exception of Mary, during all this.
Yeah.
So
Mary was never intended to be the heir to begin with, because obviously she's a girl.
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah, it was always somebody else will come along.
Yeah.
And several actually did. They just didn't survive.
Yeah.
And you reach to that point, but then again, we're going far afield.
Well, I want to pull us out of the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And just say real quick, pick up The Tudors by G.J. Meyer, and following along with that, I just started Candace Millard's River of the Gods. Already excellent, one chapter in. Also, some of the characters, Sir Richard Burton, you see it in his nurture, in his circumstances as a young person. But I want to
the explorer, Richard Burton, as opposed to the actor.
Yes.
We like both of them, of course.
Different guy. But I wanted to give Marcus his shot.
Okay. Here's mine. The good man is the man who, no matter how morally unworthy he has been, is moving to become better.
Oh, I love that.
That's a very good one.
Love it.
Great quote.
But no matter how unworthy he is.
Yes.
That might be the pinnacle of everything Dewey wrote. I mean, that's really right at
it's very Darwinistic.
Yeah. But we've gotten to a point in our society where we don't allow for that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we don't allow for growth.
Perfect example. Algerian. I saw this just the other day. There was an Algerian court that just sentenced 49 people to death.
Ooh.
The reason they did this was a painter had come to Algeria, and I can't remember from where he was, but they had some forest fires going on there. And this guy came over and wanted to go to help people put the forest fires out.
Yeah.
He was a stranger to the individuals that lived there. So they naturally assumed he started the forest fire.
Oh.
And these 49 locals lynched him immediately.
Oh, wow.
Took a couple of years, but they've all been convicted now. The announcement just happened. A perfect example of us, reacting, not thinking before reacting.
Fire-ready aim.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's you see that there's an individual on TikTok. There's a bearded gentleman, and all he does is when somebody sends him video or photos of somebody that's being atrocious or racist or what have you, and he posts this, does an analysis of it, and the whole intent is find out who this person is and destroy them.
Doxing?
Oh, it's worse than doxing. He really fires them up. And I mean, the last one.
He's that proverbial guy that stands in front of the jail and yells, "Get a rope."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Get a rope.
Exactly.
Somebody get a rope.
He is
Go stand trial.
No, I'm not saying that these people aren't despicable individuals. Because in all of these cases, they are.
Yeah.
They're doing a despicable thing. They're racist or what have you. But is their crime and not allowing to grow, not giving them that opportunity to grow and learn from their mistakes, is what's happening with their punishment completely disproportionate with?
Well, and certainly it's one of these things where you don't recognize that, hey, maybe this isn't up to you. We have institutions that can deal with this.
Yes, but they're I hate as they say crimes because in most cases they're not illegal.
Well, I was going to say, but they were convicted.
They were convicted in the public eye, and by this individual bringing them forward to do this, but they're not allowed anymore that opportunity to grow and change. It's just like the idea.
The judgment is permanent.
Exactly. It's the same thing as when we put people in prison. Is that for punishment or for rehabilitation? And if we don't rehabilitate them and adapt them to what's going on back out here
as best humanly possible,
as best as you can, you end up with recidivism.
That's correct.
As opposed to a contributing, honorable member of society.
And yet we go back to the question: how much of that is free will?
Yeah, exactly.
And how much of that is
because
is less exactly. So, shall we say?
Because their internment in the judicial system is definitely in rare form voluntary. Almost every time it's involuntary. Because to be honest, if they didn't get caught, they'd probably keep doing what they were doing.
Well, I'd say that
sometimes that's all they know.
It's a very rare thing that your internment in the judicial system is voluntary, period.
Exactly.
Now,
because you make choices.
Yeah.
Well, no, in the sense that, okay, yes, I'm going to go ahead and turn myself in.
Yes.
And be sent to jail.
I want to be better. I want to accept my punishment voluntarily.
There's the occasional outlier of that.
There is.
The long-term convict who cannot function in real society, so he gets himself sent back to a structured society where he is.
The guy in Shawshank Redemption is a great example of that. I forget his name, but it's the old guy who gets paroled after he's been in jail like 60 years.
That's right. It has no way of functioning in a free society.
Right, and he ends up hanging himself.
Yeah, because he cannot adapt.
Right. He did not want to go.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know anything else.
Yeah. And of course, after 60 years, how could you?
Exactly. But basically because there is no growth in that environment.
But deliberately. It's
deliberately.
Yeah, I mean, in his case, that's not true in his case. It's a fictional.
Yeah.
Because he carved out a life.
Oh,
he was the guy who took care of the pigeons.
Oh, yeah.
He was in the library.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he had built
a
life.
Yes,
because
but that's rare.
Yes,
but
you have to have a way of
that.
Yes.
Life.
Well, as we said before, man's got to know his limitations.
It gave him comfort to know there were boundaries of his life. Once he was out and there were no boundaries anymore, he didn't know how to build anything.
Well, because ultimately he found he had to. He was allowed to and was driven to contribute meaningfully in some fashion. Oh, right. That's basic human.
Boundaries are actually important.
Yeah,
right. You know, a life without boundaries
is chaos.
Is not just chaos, but ultimately will lead to that same decision, either societally or individually. You will end up committing suicide.
Yeah, you will.
You may not recognize it the way we think of individual suicide,
whether you physically live or not.
You will destroy yourself.
Yeah.
Anyways, so let's not to cut yours short. We are at 54 minutes, and we still have bourbon break and my quote.
You got to tie it up.
So bourbon break, gentlemen. What are we drinking today?
I have poured everyone brand new.
Marcus.
Again, we have 3 brand new ones to try. This is Rebel 100, a Lux Row product. Lux Row is out in Bardstown.
Okay.
They produce several brands. It is a wheated bourbon that Marcus, just from the aroma, was able to pick up on.
Wheated, not weeded. I want to make sure that this is across clear.
So that means bourbon.
Yeah, that means just that wheat is a significant part of the mash bill, in addition to the 51% corn.
Leads to a very distinctive taste and aroma.
So, yes, and the very distinctive taste I want to talk about. Early on, I thought it had a bit of almost a hint of a medicinal taste. Mm-hmm. I don't taste it as much once the ice is melted and the flavor is bloomed a little bit more. And I don't know if this is because that first bourbon earlier today was so overwhelming, but I'm still getting a peppery taste. And I can't tell if it's from the first bourbon. Just hanging on my mouth.
Here. I think there's a little pepper here. I think there is.
Because it's very similar in where it's happening and the flavor, and I just can't tell.
To that, yeah.
But it's very rare that a bourbon will have that kind of effect long after.
I don't think so. I think this has got it. I think this has got some of that.
Yeah.
Now, I suppose the only way to really test that is next time maybe do it in reverse. Or do this differently. But it has got a... because it's 100 proof, it's higher. It's got a sting that's a little bit more pronounced, but it's in the tongue. It's in the mouth.
Harsher,
the weed will take the edge off of that. So
and I think that's exactly right. Yes.
Well, the weed would too.
Wheat.
Yeah, that's right. But it's got a I hate to use the word grainy taste. I don't mean that in texture. I mean that in flavor.
Right.
Yeah. It's got a little bit. What are you thinking there, Martin? I mean, you have a.
I'm having a hard time placing this flavor.
You are our cleanest palate. You seem to be able to pull out the most.
And I'm not placing it, but there's a flavor here.
But a lot of
it's not quite a sweetness.
Not as sweet, but
a lot of what the 4 of us are going to be influenced by is the snaz.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we are well endowed nasally.
Okay, I'll take that.
The smells.
There's nothing wrong with that.
The smells are going to definitely hit us as far as our flavors go.
Oh,
not to be cliched, but I don't think that the size of the schnoz determines the quality of the sniffer.
No, you have to have the nostrils to go with it.
So I'm not saying that. I'm not exactly saying size doesn't matter.
Right. Well, old Red Fox would say the nose knows.
Yes.
And I think there's truth to that.
There is.
I think that is truly an effect that you can have here.
Because I would never say size doesn't matter. Because only small penis men say size doesn't matter.
Okay, then.
But
you just said it.
I very explicitly said I'm not saying.
Yeah, well, you're not saying it.
I'm certainly not saying
it. It's not the size of the boat, baby. It's the motion of the ocean.
That's correct. That's right. We always have to end with that. That's where that goes. Speaking of ending, we need to slide over.
Sure, I can get what this is. Maybe a touch of citrus.
We'll get you out of here on time, I promise.
A touch of citrus maybe in this one.
Maybe, yes.
Citrus?
It's a little bit of a tang, yeah. I can see that.
I would have not
almost berries.
Said that, but...
Berries?
Not like orange peel or lemon, but almost a little bit of berry.
We have to bow to the cream palate because I think you.
I don't know. I don't know that I'm catching that. To me, that peppery bit is so overwhelming.
This is
still good stuff. And this is another bottle that's still only about a $20 bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I definitely prefer the first one over this.
okay, yeah, I would not argue that.
Yeah.
The Evan Williams said surprisingly good for the price point.
Yes. This, I think it does have, even with the water and the ice, still has a bit of that medicinal bit to it.
Maybe just a touch of toothpaste, antiseptic kind of.
Yeah, antiseptic. Yes,
Listerine.
Yes.
Listerine.
I'll dissent from that. I didn't catch it, but I'll bow to your catching.
Well, I mean, you had more ice than I did, so
Yeah.
for me, it's going to be a little more pronounced.
There is a little bit of a hint of the.
And it hangs around on the tongue quite a bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't call it an aftertaste exactly, but
You ever considered this with cigars?
well,
Yeah.
at Phillips we
Yeah.
always had cigars with bourbon, so yeah. We'd have to go somewhere else. We'd have to do it on your porch, and we're not doing that in November.
No.
Take us home, brother.
All right, so finish that snort.
Had time to find a quote?
Yes, actually, I've had it for a while here.
Okay.
I was going to do the one we had talked about earlier.
Right.
Before I do, so as part of my summation, I ask each of you to repeat your quotes so that we set the stage.
Of
All
course,
right,
yes.
so here we go. The self is not something ready-made, but something in continuous formation through choice of action.
I like the continuous formation part.
And mine was
Formation's a key word for Catholics.
It is.
If we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow.
Okay.
And the good man is the man who, no matter how morally unworthy he has been, is moving to become better.
Love
Love that one. Love
Excellent.
that one.
Love that. Excellent quote. Okay,
Fits in
so
with the other two real well.
it does. Well, yeah, I thought that as you said that, I thought, man, that he could do this. So
Are you losing your nickname?
no.
Do you call him Ballpeen?
Ballpeen.
And you Claw?
Sledge. Call me Sledge.
Sledge? I think I would have to call him Sledge.
Because he's bigger? That's kind of rude.
You can just call me Roundtree. Mr. Roundtree.
Oh, good Lord.
Very few people get that reference to Shaft.
Richard Roundtree.
Richard Roundtree.
That's right. Absolutely.
You are so like to be called. Anyway, I mean, not that we are.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I mean, we're about as pale as you can be in here.
Oh, yeah. I do at least tan.
So,
That's what I get for being a farmer.
anyways, so the thing that is at the heart of each of your quotes is growth.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
indeed it is. Yes.
Perceptive, sir.
And the thing I like about that is, one, as I said, you know me, my major thing, my major driver of my own personal philosophy, my own personal theology, is that inherent dignity of the human person bit, right? And all that is about growth. That whole bit about becoming as fully human as you possibly can.
Right.
And all of that, how you go about learning, because as Francis said, learning everything the way we did before isn't going to take us where we want
That's
to go.
right. It is
essentially what that means.
It is anathema in my opinion.
The continual formation, obviously, that's part and parcel of becoming fully human.
Yeah, growth.
And
it's huge.
Part of growth is that being able to forgive, not necessarily forget, but forgive.
Forgive.
So all of that implies that there is a process.
Okay.
That there's not necessarily one's way of going about things, but in that process, one thing is essential. Conflict is the gadfly of thought. It stirs us up to observation and memory. It instigates invention. It shocks us out of sheep-like passivity and sets us at noting and contriving. Conflict is a sine qua non of reflection and ingenuity.
Ooh, interesting.
Conflict. Not arguing, not fighting.
Yes. But
Right? But the true conflict of
one side versus the other.
the investigation of what is true. of what is good.
Yeah,
The question of what, why. The journalistic questions. Who, what, why, where, when, and how. Really, all of them.
Exactly.
All of that is a process of pitting ideas against one another.
It's active, not passive.
Essentially, yes, it says right here.
Yeah.
It shocks us out of that sheep-like passivity.
That's right. Yeah,
It is
passiveness
engaging.
is the enemy.
Yes.
Activeness is the hero.
Right, because for all of these, all of your quotes,
It is action.
it is action. It is the absolute
absolutely.
opposite of that
It's
passivity.
the exercise of free will towards a goal.
Well, and
Even an
the
unknown
exercise of free will, or how was it put in your quote, Martin?
The continuous
Continuous
formation through choice of action.
continuous formation of choice of action.
Action would be the operative word.
Well, no, choice
would be. Yeah, you're right.
choice
Choice
is
would be.
the
You
operative. because you have something,
you
two
have
things
the
that are in
free
conflict.
will
Two things that are
decide what course of action to
Yes.
take.
Yes.
and sometimes you are choosing between two equally good things that are mutually exclusive.
Oh, okay.
But more often, you are choosing between things that are, you may view them as
Equally
equally
bad.
good. Sometimes it is the
equally
best
bad.
bad choice.
When it comes to politicians nowadays.
Yeah, sometimes it is the best bad choice. But I mean, this is inherent in writing. That the conflict is either the best bad choice.
Yeah.
Or two mutually exclusive goods, and then it got to be really good. If they're both, I could do either one. I don't really care.
That goes back to stakes.
Who cares?
That goes back to stakes.
Yes.
Yeah, stakes would be
Who
that.
cares? That's not important.
What you're laying out here is the age-old practice of dialectics.
Yes,
That's
excellent.
exactly what we're talking about
Yes.
here. Is you take and Thomas More was famous for this in his dialogue of Comfort Against Tribulation, which is probably his most successful work, and you can easily find it on Amazon. I give it as gifts all the time. It's set up as the argument between the old uncle who is dying and the young nephew, arguing about the world and what choices should be made and what observations should be made.
To use a modern example, probably more people will be familiar with, is the Screw Tape letters.
Exactly the same. That's right.
Yes, that is Uncle Screwtape,
The demon.
the demon, writing letters to his nephew Wormwood, giving him advice. Excellent book. Love it.
C.S. Lewis.
C.S.
C.S.
Lewis.
That's right.
C.S. Lewis.
Because you're taking you are having your two characters argue different sides in an intellectual manner.
That C.S. Lewis is less arguing so much as he is sort of, because he's presenting things and saying, no, don't do this, do this.
So Moore did the same thing. Yeah, it's right, because you would postulate a position and then you would take pot shots at it and you would move things along by the discussion.
Yes,
and that's how
inherent in this, in this principle of conflict driving change and growth,
right?
Both personal growth as well as moral growth. Is that you are making these choices, that you are evaluating these things, that you are actively engaging the mind. So your education is extremely important. In this.
Yeah, that's Dewey. That's
because
right.
And it's not just the intellectual, though. It's got to be the experiential to go with it.
Oh, that's especially him. Yeah, very much so.
You have to be able to say, well, I know that choosing this path, these are the consequences.
Right.
Because I've experienced some of them, or I've observed them. Because he talks about that in here, too.
That's right.
You have to be able to observe.
Right. And we've talked about the trusting others' experience versus trusting your own experience and those kinds of pieces.
He's not into intuiting things.
Yeah, sometimes you've got to learn how to trust
others.
Well, intuition, I think, is part of that. Because
if it's based on experience, that's right.
Well, yes, but I mean, intuition is what ultimately how we make our choices. I think.
Of course it is.
Because we can make a list of, these are the pros, these are the cons. But in the end, all choices are a gut instinct.
Right. For Dewey, it's only experience that informs intuition.
But what you run, I'll give you all a perfect example that every one of you can relate to. You have tried to explain to someone that you know, another male, being as we're all males, about what it's like with you suddenly have your child. That split second.
Right. That's right.
You can try to explain to a man what that's like. They cannot comprehend it.
Until they've experienced
Until
it.
they've experienced it. That experience comes in a split second.
It is. At the birth?
At the birth.
Essentially.
Exactly.
Usually, yes.
You suddenly, because of that moment, are a completely different man.
Oh, yeah. You are changed forever.
Forever to a father.
You are.
That's right.
And it's
you have to work hard not to be.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's near impossible.
Ideally, you have that same visceral reaction to your marriage.
Yes, you do.
That's right.
To any of those kinds of life-changing relationships. I can try to explain to someone what the relationship is between the four of us.
Yeah.
But nobody can truly understand that. And I don't just mean the specific relationship.
Well,
I mean the
it's not the
type of
experiences.
relationship.
That's just
because
part
not
of it.
everybody has the deep friendships that we have developed.
Yeah.
Part of that's because we all tend. Well, you have your extrovert tendencies, but I know you
I
Well,
am an extrovert.
Well, you're an extrovert in the sense that you are flamboyant.
Yes.
In the best sense of the word.
In the best sense of the word.
This probably explains why after 32 years of marriage, my mom still thinks I'm gay.
Probably, yes. I didn't mean that kind of flamboyant, but yes.
Lord, that's right. I was wondering how we were going to get past that.
Well, if you hadn't done Rocky Horror back then, she probably would.
It was all the theater.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Theater. Theater.
Yeah, well,
Back to
all of us have been
Back
on
to
stage.
marriage.
So,
Yes, we have.
but no, having that relationship, and we've talked about this before, that relationships are more important than most people realize.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Partially, and probably primarily because of the effect they have on us, but also not just the effect we have on us, but the effect that we have on other people. It's very much we all know what a marriage is. Mom and dad.
Yeah.
Parents as grandparents. We see that coupling kind of thing, and we know what that looks like. And we've all seen ideals of that.
Yeah.
But
thank you, Cary Grant.
yes. But we cannot truly understand it until we've experienced it ourselves.
That's
and we bring
correct.
something new to it that we can try and pass on to someone else.
That's right.
Experience. You're
Oh,
right.
yeah.
It's impossible to explain experience.
Yeah.
But once somebody gets it,
Yeah.
no explanation is needed.
Yeah. It's like
Very good.
It's
Very good.
like juggling. You can try and juggle, and you'll do that. And all of a sudden,
It clicks.
it clicks, and you can just juggle.
Riding the bike's the same way.
I was just going to say riding a bike.
That's
Yes.
right. You
all
can
of
try
those
and try and
things.
try.
Parallel parking.
Until something clicks, and then all of a sudden it's easy. You never forget it again.
Right.
And that's part of our ability
Yes.
to condition ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's also, and I don't want to put that down, but I want to also put it out there is the fact that we have this inherent ability within us to grow.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about
Yes,
here.
and
And in fact,
growth is impossible without that conflict.
well, and so you would side with the shadows, not the Vorlons, in Babylon 5 about what's the better way of looking at the world. Because their philosophy was, for those who may not have seen it, growth comes through conflict. However, they also put aside the value and dignity and sanctity of a sentient being. Whereas the Vorlons valued that, in the end they didn't, but they believed in order. It's order versus chaos. Chaos from chaos is very Darwinian.
No, I do not say the shadows are right versus the.
Because I know you don't, but I want to.
I say they are both right
And both wrong.
and both wrong.
Okay, all right, there you go. Okay, yeah.
Philosophically, they are both right.
Uh-huh.
One respects the inherent dignity of the being. I won't say the human person because we're talking sci-fi.
Yeah, that's right.
Of the individual.
Yeah, of the sentient being.
And the why is important. That is the most important thing for the Vorlon.
That's right.
Why?
Uh-huh.
Because remember, when they tested Delenn, why she was for their cause was more important than the fact that she was for their cause.
That's right.
But the shadows are right because it is only through conflict that we can grow. Because without the conflict...
That's right.
Now, granted, theirs was predicated on life or death struggle.
That's right. It's fatal.
It's
in their
fatal,
case.
yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's the total extreme. But the conflict, once you get to the point where we are in a society where relative safety is assured,
Right.
Russia, Ukraine notwithstanding,
Yeah.
for the most part, the Western world, what we would call the developed world, is relatively safe. Political madmen aside. The conflict then becomes in how we think about things and how we go about our daily lives.
So therefore, Nietzsche was right. That which does not
He's
kill
really trying
us
to pin me into saying something
Yes,
I
I
don't want to say.
does not. That which does not kill us makes us stronger.
Oh, yes. As a general rule, yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Because, if I get both my legs cut off when I'm run over by a train, it may not kill me, but I don't necessarily say that it's made me stronger either.
Depends on how you look at that.
It depends on how I look at
Depends on how you look at it.
It can make you emotionally stronger.
It could also make me an emotional wreck.
Well,
It's how
it's your choice.
It's how I choose to respond. In
Choice of action that you take.
Yes.
Because you still retain your agency
Yes.
to make those choices.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can fail miserably.
Yeah.
Or you can rise to the challenge and be victorious.
Absolutely.
A perfect example is most people do not, they look at me like I'm crazy when I say the best thing that ever happened to me was when I was told I was terminal. When I was told I was going to die within 3 to 6 months.
That was just not kill us.
That was what?
Stronger.
10.5 years ago now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason that made a difference to me, even though I went through all that suffering for 8 years.
Right.
And that extreme deterioration.
The boiling away in the crucible.
But what it ended up doing was change my perspective on what's important in my life.
You allowed your will to be reformed.
Yes.
Because that is an act of act of will.
But
Action.
And but there are other people that I've talked to that when given that same thing had completely different views on it.
So is it your nature?
I was just going to say, this is an example of his external nurturing changed his nature.
Yeah.
Well, that's right, because the stimuli and circumstances outside changed his nature.
But from that point
should
on,
have been concrete and hardened at this point.
But it's not always, because we talked once about
because ultimately it never is.
Right, because we talked once about whether or not a person could have more than one vocation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, they can.
We believe that.
Yes.
In fact, for many of us, you must.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else is just is
obviously we have vocations
early.
as husbands and fathers.
Yes.
But now we have separate vocations
as servants.
Right. Which technically you could say is just a different form.
Well, yeah,
of
absolutely. They are intended to be melded with each other. In fact, they are poorly
husband
done.
and father are servants.
They are poorly done if they're not melded.
Yes.
I think we have Martin with his hand up.
I think what we're saying here is that Marcus is a Nietzschean Übermensch. He reshaped his will.
He reshaped his being through his will.
Through his will.
Yeah, he reshaped his being through his will for a purpose.
Yes.
For a purpose.
And I'm still doing that.
He's
but
a
I mean,
Nietzschean Übermensch.
I'll be the first
wearing
to
bands.
say that when I went up into that hospital in Indianapolis as the backup for a liver transplant.
This is when the first one.
This is when the first one happened.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't remember the other two. The other, I don't remember matching for the liver or this second liver that I've got in me.
Okay, because once the first one started,
I was out. I was
okay,
gone.
you're gone. Okay, gotcha.
I was sitting in a bed. They had already drawn like 40 vials of blood, literally. Tested fucking everything.
And there's the F-bomb.
And there's the F-bomb we were wondering was going to happen.
It happened. Finally. Which y'all were hoping for.
Number 3.
Number 3, that's right.
What?
You have to say it eventually. Just to get
Yes, you're the only one that
hasn't dropped it.
They came in and told me I had 10 minutes to get all of my affairs in order. Period.
Holy crap.
10.
Right,
that was it. I could call. The only person that was allowed in there was Victoria.
Well, she's the one that needs to be there, yes.
COVID, but she was only allowed in there for an hour or so at a time in the hospital.
Right.
She had
Right,
to keep
'cause this
coming
is
back
May,
and forth.
right?
This was in May.
Yeah, we're still in the heart of lockdown.
May
Oh,
of
yeah.
2020.
Yeah, May of 2020. So I'm given 10 minutes. I make quick messages
Yeah.
for my sons,
Yes.
my granddaughter,
That's right.
and told my wife that I loved her,
Of course.
and they took me away. I did not expect to wake up.
Yeah, because the odds were very good that you
That I
might
wouldn't.
Could not. That's right.
That was
Yeah.
in my head.
That was it.
That was the end.
That's right. You had to prepare
As
that
soon,
way.
As soon as
Anything else was a gift and a miracle.
yes, as soon as they put me to sleep,
As
That
far
was
as you
it.
knew, it was done.
it was done. And then, over the course of 2 months in and out of a coma and what have you, and all of these delusional things, and then eventually I get out. I didn't expect any of that.
There's a freedom with that, though, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
There's a freedom, but and I'm not speaking for you, but potentially,
Yeah.
there's also a great responsibility that goes with that.
It's the two should always be linked.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't ever waste your second chance.
Yes, or in his case, third.
Third, fourth,
Yeah.
whatever.
That's right.
I died over the course of those years. I died multiple times, and Victoria kept having them bring me back.
Because she loves you, dude. We all know this. She
Well,
said
that-
so.
There, she just wants to punish me more as I go along. She's not done.
Love takes many forms.
Yeah, so you only hurt the one you love.
Yeah.
So
That's I was going to say. Yes.
No, she does love me, but
She does.
that is the only reason that I'm alive.
It's because of the love of a good woman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she forced people. She was relentless.
Well, we all know her strength of
indomitable will.
Indomitable
yes.
will. My
Oh,
wife
yes.
has a very similar one. That's correct.
Yes.
And that
Gotta
is a
love the
good thing.
willpower.
But one of the things that has happened with this whole growth thing is, when we met in college,
Yeah.
we were completely different individuals than what we've developed into over the course of
Thank God.
of
Well,
35
yeah,
years.
We were all pretty stupid back
Yeah,
then.
we were very stupid.
Oh yeah.
Although we were a lot thinner, I will say
Well,
that.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we did have some fun.
Oh, absolutely.
yes.
No,
No,
we're not
no.
bad people.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but-
if we were to go
Yes.
back and meet
But-
our younger selves, we.
I mean, I
we'd be okay
see
with
it's a linear path.
Yeah, we are
Fits
the,
and starts, but it's a
Yeah.
linear path. We
But-
are not different in the sense that we are unrecognizable.
no,
No, yeah.
But we've
We are
changed.
different.
We've changed morally. We have changed thoughtfully, religiously. All of these things, which is the epitome of what Dewey is talking about a lifetime of growth
That's right.
and change and education.
And that's why I chose the quote that I did. That conflict, it doesn't have to be fighting. It doesn't have to
No,
be the conflict that
it's
we
not
see
violence.
in the
No,
social
it's-
sphere
yeah.
today.
Yeah.
No.
It is, do I choose between this
Yes.
or this?
It's oppositional.
That's what a choice
yeah.
is.
Yeah,
it's a
it's-
conflict.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if
Yeah.
there's no conflict, well, what's the
It's-
choice?
Well, that's right. Exactly.
But
Yeah.
it's always inherent conflicts within ourselves that we have to work out, whether or not
Yes.
we want to do this
Well, we do
or
that all
do
the time.
moral
Very
thing.
Nietzschean idea.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, for Nietzsche, the moral thing would be whatever you choose to do, though. So
you see
That's
some
right, because he was beyond me with
I'm
morality.
making a choice to
Yeah.
improve.
yes,
Yes.
That's Dewey. That's right. You always
well,
choose
that's
for.
that's
It's
Nietzsche as well.
too.
That's right.
Again, he's the Ubermensch.
But I mean, we make these choices on a daily basis. When we see the individual on the side of the street with the sign, do we help or do we stare forward to try and avoid their gaze?
Depends on how many people I see him collect money from.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and what is our underlying reasoning for whatever that
Exactly.
choice is? Do we believe him to be a charlatan and not true?
Yes.
Or do we believe that others will benefit from this? That, except, I mean, there's
And-
a whole host of options here that we are projecting
Yes.
upon an objective observation.
And look
Whatever
at
it is.
look at the
Subjective observation.
Look at the teachings
Yeah,
of
subjective
Christ
observation,
with his parables about help the least of your brothers because that is me.
That is correct. even though that's Matthew's gospel, that's Luke's
Yes.
outlook.
Yeah.
Always look for the anawim, those who are weak,
Exactly.
those who do not need, those who have not.
And, are we willing to serve and in what manner in our lives? And that's a very important thing. And most people do not choose to serve.
I think you're exactly right. I go to Milton on that one, for God's sakes, I will not serve. That is very anti... I don't want to say...
It's an antichrist attitude.
It is. It is very much so. It's anti-Christian and Christ, for sure. But it's also, I think, anti-evolutionary.
Yes,
in many ways. So. I mean, Darwin would have a problem with that because we're supposed to be better than that.
No, I think Darwin would be totally fine with that.
I think he'd
because
be fine
I think
with
that
but it's also ultimately self-defeating.
No, not from a Darwinian perspective.
Yeah, survival of the fittest.
Yeah, because I think survival of the fittest.
But that's outside your hands. That's irrespective of your choices.
See, I think Darwin and Nietzsche they go hand in hand.
That's true. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And I will not serve.
Yeah.
Is a perfect blend of Darwin and Nietzsche.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I'm liking this. Continue.
Now, I'm not saying that Darwin and Nietzsche are the Antichrist.
I wouldn't put it past you.
That's right.
I'm not saying they are, but I'm not saying they aren't either.
Well, philosophically speaking, this is a possibility. There's
philosophically speaking.
Right. If you want to take it into a practical example, look at the way we look at breeding dogs for show, cats, horses, cows, whatever. And the fact that we consider bloodlines and this kind of thing and what have you. But
that's eugenics.
The eugenics portion of things. But if you apply that to human beings nowadays, people will have a meltdown.
That's right. It is immoral and yet we do it all the time.
But we do it, but that Darwin was a pro fan of eugenics.
Well, that's exactly what he proposed.
Margaret Sanger,
perfect
example.
We'll talk about her quite a bit. But you know what? It's a dirty secret, and I'm going to expose it right here.
It is.
Well, no, that is not. Yeah, that's not what I mean, though. No, the dirty secret I'm going to expose is this: is that everybody still believes and practices that.
Yes,
because we want our kids
inherently.
And that's
we want them to marry into the right families.
That's
we want them to.
Everything is about that. Is that bettering? We want our children to be better than us. Is that
right? But what we object to, is again, I go back to using this word again, is the industrialization of it.
Yes,
that's right.
That's the formal eugenics
or the bureaucratization of it.
Yes, and we were doing that still up through the 1960s.
Well, we still do it today because we choose a mate. We choose it on
look at
criteria.
The various monarchs that are still around. That's the heart of perpetuating the monarchies.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You have to have the suitable candidate.
Yes, you have to. Royals marry other royals.
That's right.
That's why in the Honor Harrington books,
right?
I've talked about them many times before. One of the things I love about the difference that Weber wrote into his future version of the British monarchy. They aren't actually the British monarchy. They're very much modeled on the Brits.
Oh, yeah.
And that is that the monarch must marry a commoner.
Interesting concept.
Well, because if meritocracy becomes a thing, then that is the eventual end of that. You have to keep meritocracy away from that in order to perpetuate the system of...
this is what helps ensure the perpetuation of it.
You got to deepen the gene pool.
Yes, exactly. Pardon?
You got to deepen the gene pool.
That too. Yes, that too.
There's the genetics side of that, which in this future system that you're talking about, they would be knowledgeable of that.
As we realize now, that's what makes if you want to talk about the genetics, the eugenics aspect of it work, is deepening the gene pool, which is what a lot of what the applied genetic or eugenics of 20s, 30s, and 40s missed. Is they were trying to narrow the gene pool.
Yeah,
that's right. Because
disaster.
Because they've made a moral judgment. What is suitable, or particularly who is suitable?
Who is suitable?
In that particular conflict, they chose badly.
Yes.
They chose poorly. Excuse me, that's the problem.
That's right. Kanunian Singh, which was the intention.
Oh, there's a Star Trek. I was going to do Star Trek too, but you beat me to it.
What was your Star Trek going to be?
Up the long ladder.
Well, that's true. An awful episode, although the lady that Riker gets it on with was pretty nifty. But beyond that, there's not much.
But, it's just Dr. Pulaski going, this is necessary to make a viable gene pool.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's too shallow. You're all going to die. And we'll have a brand new M-class planet complete with buildings to move into.
Because morally speaking, that episode has serious issues.
Yes.
Serious issues. That's right. Because you're going to condemn someone that is already created to death because you don't like them.
Yeah.
I mean, and for a main character like Riker to do that, that's kind of reprehensible.
But it's very much when you think about the people this comes out of, it's very much making an argument for abortion.
Well, absolutely it is.
It was deliberate.
It was a deliberate thing of that. That's one of the reasons I rail against it. Is because it is who am I to
It's even worse. In a way, it's actually saying, see, abortion's bad, because it's saying, it's not even talking about, an unseen blob of cells in somebody's womb. It's talking about a fully living, breathing human being who's an adult.
That's correct.
Well,
that's
like
that is able and morally desirable to kill, to eliminate, to remove.
Right.
Well,
simply because of their state of development.
Because not only that,
or their circumstances of development.
The whole point, though, is I did not choose for that to happen. It was done against my will.
That's right, because choice is the ultimate arbiter.
Well, you've had individuals bringing lawsuits against their parents for being born.
For being born, yeah.
That's right.
Now, my
asinine thing I've ever heard of.
Too damn much money and not enough brains.
Now,
too many dollars.
My personal view on abortion or stated view on abortion has always been, let's outlaw abortion, but what we need to do is wait until the little bastards are about 5 years old to see whether or not they're worth a damn, then off them. That's the Darwinian way of doing it.
But you know what? You joke, but that's not that far off of the position that some people take nowadays.
That's correct. That's right. Because you have to have value, and of course, which is a fungible term.
And
subjective.
And what you have a lot of people saying that unborn life has value, other people saying that it doesn't.
Because it's not life.
Because it's not life.
Yeah. Well, you have to make that assertion in order to be able to do what is done.
Right.
Yes. Because if you don't, then you are indeed a monster.
Right. Yes. Well, again, these are all the conflicts that drive what makes us better. This is probably the most stark example of trying to choose between good and evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And oddly enough, whether no matter which side of that argument you're on, you're probably going to say the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, sure, because nobody wants to be the villain.
Well, yes, but I mean that's how extreme each side sees the other.
That's correct. Yes, because that's the only way you can continue the argument.
Well, no, it's not that. But I mean, if you think about it, the two sides are so extremely different.
Yeah, that's right.
There's probably not another issue where the sides are that far apart, with the possible exception of whether or not Trump should run again.
Oh no, death penalty. The death penalty.
The death penalty is
running again.
No.
Yeah,
well,
the death penalty is
a lot of individuals,
but it's the temperature on the death penalty issue is much lower.
It is.
That's the difference.
It is.
It's really the only difference.
Well, one, because at least most people realize that, those people are generally guilty, although not always.
Once you start using the terms, those people.
Yeah.
Well, those people. How else do you want me to put it? A group of convicts, felons, the perpetrators.
Dave Chappelle hit on a good point just the other week on Saturday Night Live when he said that the two words that you don't want to use as a comedian and follow with anything is the Jews, just like those people.
Yeah.
You once you start, it's that grouping stuff.
That's why it's tribalism. Absolutely.
Yeah, the tribalism and that people are almost as virulent about that as they are about the issue of abortion.
That's right. Because the only way that the entire issue even exists is it must be us versus them, and them are not worthy.
And what I end up seeing is, surprisingly, and it's been helped through a young lady that I met from Cuba, who's a black Cuban. Wonderful young lady. Beautiful, gorgeous. My wife encourages me to take her to social events because it really confuses people as to what the hell's going on with me. Why is she with that son of a bitch?
Well, it also gets her off the hook of having to go somewhere.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
So let's understand the full context there.
What she ran into is with dating. She has dated whites. She's dated Nigerian. She's dated all sorts of different races and backgrounds as far as what countries they've been from. And in all cases, what you see is individuals reacting to the idea of couples mixing, different tribes mixing.
Yeah.
My son experienced the same thing just recently. He spent 2 weeks in Morocco.
Yeah.
And he went with his girlfriend. Okay. Now my son, like my wife and I, looks like the ideal of Hitler's Aryan nation as far as you can't get much more white.
Yeah.
And blonde.
And blonde.
Yeah.
And
Blonde hair, blue eyes.
Blonde hair, blue eyes, tall, the whole 9 yards. And my granddaughter's exactly the same. But Clay's girlfriend is from Tanzania.
There you go.
They show up into a country where it's a very monocultured country, Morocco, and the different tribes. And literally, in Morocco, you've got actual tribes.
Yeah.
Different types of people,
right.
literally. He was talking about how he noted, the one thing he noticed was the looks he was getting from people because they were together.
That's right. They would associate.
Exactly. And that kind of you cannot mix is known in not only whites, but it's also known in African American culture. It's known in Asian culture and what have you.
Well, sure. It's known amongst religions.
Exactly.
Well.
And it is.
It's a ghettoization. We would often come together with our own people because the others might kill us.
Well, Catholicism is a perfect example.
That's correct. That's where I'm going.
You know, if you're going to get married in the church predominantly, you've got to join the church.
No, that's not true anymore.
There was a time.
But
there was a time.
There was
correct.
A time.
And that was some of that was self-preservation.
Yes. And you get
some of self-preservation, but also
thing with Jewish
bigotry.
That's true. That's correct.
You get that with whatever.
Yeah, because that's not unique to Catholicism. That's common.
In fact,
yes, Muslims marry Muslims, Hindus marry Hindus.
Well, that's one of the other things that's interesting.
The other is a problem. We must fix that problem.
Well, it's not just that. Because we all have a certain comfort level.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
For saying this.
Well, yes, some people are totally uncomfortable their entire lives.
Yeah.
But we all, seriously though, we all have a certain comfort level. And the circles that we run in generally tend to be like ourselves.
Yeah, sameness is safe.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even so much that as a conscious thought, all right?
Yeah, it's genetic.
Well, it's not even that. Just, we gravitate
we feel comfortable
towards things that we like. Yeah. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Things that, the things that we like tend to be liked by other people who are relatively similar to us. Now, there are always outliers, right?
Sure.
But in general, we stay with what is comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's been, up until very recently, historically, that has had a genetic, a racial, a religious aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's changing quite a bit.
Well, I mean, you've got people mixing.
Well, yeah,
right.
Ethnicity and nationality is also part of that too.
Yes, but the interesting thing is they're replacing the old comforts of race and religion or class with ideology.
Yes.
Oh, yes, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
So
exactly right.
All of that openness.
Oh yeah.
Is not really as open as we think it is.
In some cases, no.
It's
you have to have that like ideology.
Right. I don't want to. Again, it's my job to hammer, so I'm going to. It's all of that openness that people are really into. Mm-hmm. They're not. They're just rejecting. What their parents liked for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And we all did that. I rejected my parents' alcoholism.
Yes.
So, we all did that. And they're replacing it with something else they like that they are more comfortable with.
Yeah.
All right? Mm-hmm. And because social media, just mass media in general, has exposed everyone to far more than it used to be possible. I think that has driven a lot of that. Mm-hmm. So, which is perfectly fine. I have no problem with any of that. My problem is the replacing it with ideology. I think that's actually more dangerous.
It is very much
because
more
what
dangerous.
that does is totally both eliminates and accentuates the conflict. It accentuates the wrong kind of conflict.
Yes.
And eliminates the right kind. It eliminates the conflict of thought and ideas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It makes everything a thought crime.
Yes.
Welcome to the thought police.
Imposes the because lack of conflict is good. It's also stability.
Yeah.
It imposes stability of the wrong kind, and trying to get back to this whole John Lockean or John Dewey kind of thing. Mm-hmm. All because really that's what we've all talked about here is various forms of conformity.
Oh yeah,
and whether or not it's imposed or embraced, and what kind of conflict is good and what kind of conflict is bad. I like conflict only for the opportunity to grow, to explore ideas, and that's what's missing in too much.
So, Robert, one quick thing before you throw it to Francis to wrap us up.
Yes, I was waiting for him to get back so I could try to draw that out.
It's like putting on what is that? American Pie.
I was thinking it was more like trying to think about baseball statistics while you're having sex.
I was thinking about DJs putting on like an 8-minute record. So
Inagata-Davida.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Good Lord.
So, awesome to have Marcus with us.
Yes, this is
He's
great.
definitely a part of the
we need to make this
Brotherhood of Snakes and Otters. So I need to find out.
It's an honor to be invited.
I need to get him a sweatshirt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I need your size to get you a sweatshirt. And let's throw it to our man Francis to wrap up.
Yes, Francis, buddy, what is next?
Hoopatube, dudes.
Hoopatube!
That's right, we're going to do Hoopatubes. We're going to go back to the writing style. We're going to talk more about writing. We can't talk enough about this stuff. We seem to it flavors so much of what we talk about. What is it about writing? What is it that we like? What have we learned? What is it that makes things cool? And the craft of writing, we're going to go deep with that once again next time. So, folks, you're going to learn a lot of great stuff about what it means to tell stories well. So, don't miss it.
Hope you enjoyed another pointless discussion of eternal questions. Remember, new episodes drop every second and fourth Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern.
Spread the word. We're on all the major podcast platforms. And leave us a review. That helps others find us.
We're on Instagram, Twitter, as well as our website, snakesandotters.com.
I'm Martin.
And I'm Robert.
And I'm Francis. Join us next time.